All right, so performance pulse is something we've been doing for a while, but of course I'm switching it up a bit. So we're going to go over a few things that kind of drives our KPIs and where we're at as a company. So I'm going to quickly go through what performance pulse is now and how we use that to kind of see where we're at as a company. And then we're going to dive in a little bit individually. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. It's going to be a lot of information, but I'm going to take it step by step. And this will be something we do every other week. And I think it's helpful to see the data behind everything in our systems. So this is about turning it forward into momentum and how we connect our system health with our production, the reality, and then the behaviors that help us with closing overall. Now, the reason why we do this is because consistency is really behind us getting the deals we want. And if we don't measure where we're at, then we lose what we're doing to actually move the needle and make us money overall. And then it also tells us about our system health. Are we actually recording what we're doing? If we're not, then we're missing a key piece of the puzzle. And you guys are missing out also, and us celebrating you and seeing where me as the sales manager can help. Because when it comes down to it, this is all about habits. And without the habits, we are losing sight of how to move our business forward. So we're taking a lot of the guesswork out. When it comes down to it, this is really about math. This is about what drives us to get the appointments, which leads to deals, which leads to closings. So, and then as we see things too, some are very, very good about keeping that structure and really recording where they're at. And others don't quite understand the systems, and that's where we want to get you guys to. This is not about watching you or being big brother. This is about me being able to see where you're at and be able to help. So that helps you when I know how to support you. So it starts with the system health. We have to be keeping track of what's going on in the system, taking care of our leads. If we don't take care of them, then pretty much they're going to go to someone else. If they're true leads, then if we do not follow up, and that's a key strategy in our business, they're going to lose sight of who you are. And then there's going to be lots of real estate agents waiting in line to see who else will follow up with them. Behavior patterns is what drives those results. We all have our own business, yes. And so we need to make sure we're doing what's necessary to move that business forward. If you look at any other business, any other industry, it's their habits too that drives their results. So even if we look outside of real estate, you'll see the same patterns. You'll see strategic moves to build the business. And with that insight, we can interpret the data, and then we can see where we need to learn, where I need to teach, and then we can actually be productive with our time. We have 3 systems. Batter, which you probably haven't seen yet, that tells us our business health. And the reason why I'm showing this is because you probably won't see this up front. This is something I see on the back, but this tells me where the leads are, how clean our leads are, and who we're neglecting. So if you have 100 leads and you're following up with 40 of them, you're keeping them in the green with 40. But if they're at risk, then obviously you might be following up with them, but maybe not quite enough. And then if they're neglected, we know we've missed the boat. So this helps me understand where we're at system-wise. And then CISU, this is our production reality. It shows exactly what's happening from appointments, contracts, closing, and where you are in pace with your goals. Now, I know Enrique's here, and he probably hasn't set his goals yet in CISU, which we'll walk through, no worries. But that's really where you want to be. So if you say you want to make $100,000 a year, what does that break down to? How many calls does that mean? How many appointments does that mean? And what's the reality there? So yes, some of it's about luck, right? Sometimes you see, someone will stumble onto a deal or they'll be at the right place and right time. But really, that's 1% of your business. Another 1% is overall talent day one. Now you can build that talent, you can build that structure, but the 98 other percent is about driving your productivity and those habits that create the business at that point. So you want to make sure you're pacing into the goal you want. You're not going to make $100,000 a year if you're not hitting the calls, if you're not hitting the contacts, if you're not hitting your appointments. So it may feel very overwhelming to get where you're going, but if you produce those habits and those habits become reality, it's going to happen. Your pipeline will be growing in the back end. Then there's FUB, which is the behavior patterns. It exposes the behaviors driving the outcomes, calls made, conversations, appointment sets, and basic activity trends. So as you know, in FUB, when you send an email, it counts that email. You send a text, it counts that text. And then in Sisu, we're also counting the conversations you're having, the open houses. All of that gives us a full story of what's happening. We all see where the behaviors are, we see the reality, and then overall, we see the business health based on those behaviors, based on the reality of production. So BATTER, what is it? It's basically the cleanliness of our records. Now, if you're calling on your personal cell phone and you're following up with your leads, that's amazing. So you can go back into Sisu and say, I'm making these calls. You can go into FUB and log a call. You can say, okay, it's not in the system, but I logged it and here's what happened. Again, it's no problem calling from your cell phone. I mean, sometimes it's great. I mean, when people call my cell phone number, that's connected to FUB, so it automatically keeps track. But others don't want to do that. And that's fine if you want to run your business that way. Just know that the less information I know, the less I can help. I can give you strategy. But if I see the progress, I can actually allow you guys to see where your follow-up is needed and the pipeline organization. And then we also see stage movement and how you're progressing forward. So BATTER might seem like kind of a weird name. I actually thought it was spelled like a batter in baseball for like a really long time. So, but it really, it's behind the scenes how our business overall is doing. It's based on production. And without production, it's unpredictable. So you could be working really hard and you might not know anything about your pipeline. You may not know who is actually being followed up with. So this gives us that overall help. So think of it as like 30,000 feet. It's way up, showing down on what the business is from that strategy. So it tells us what leads are being worked. Where's the pipeline stable? Is there follow-up? Opportunities moving forward. I could not tell you how you can get a lead, you do not follow up, and you've lost it. If a lead reaches out today, what's the assumption tomorrow? They may want a house today, their life gets busy, we don't follow up, and the next thing you know, they're either with another agent or they've lost momentum. So you can be the greatest agent in the world, and if you don't follow up, if you don't build that pipeline, you're not building your business. Then there's Sisu. A lot of you have been into it. A lot of you have seen it. If you set your goals, you've seen it. But this gives us the reality. What is actually happening in your business? What is happening in the system? This is about outcomes. It moves from the health of the pipeline to the results of the pipeline. Sisu tells us appointments met, how many contracts are written, how many closings we're doing, on pace versus off pace, and the change since the last performance pulse that we had. So if we see, okay, your goal is $100,000 a year.
You know what?
If you're not making enough calls or contacts to get to that point, then you are off pace. Now, we're going to cover this also in your one-on-ones, but I want you to understand what on pace and off pace means. And then when the change from the last pulse is important, is that we want to see week over week movement. If we're not seeing that, we need to make some changes so we can see that we are meeting the expectation. And when you meet the expectation, you're moving closer to your goals. Then there's FUB. Probably all of you are working in FUB. And this tells us, why is production happening? This tells us the why. Because production always follows behavior, and behavior leaves a trail. And again, you can go back and log behavior. If something's happening outside of it, if you're having open houses and you are saying, okay, I'm having 20 conversations at an open house, I would go create those records because they're not in FUB, most likely. And then you're going to be actually saying, I met an appointment. I'm moving forward. And then we follow that behavior to results. This reveals how many calls are made, how many conversations are being had, how many appointments are being set, and then your overall pipeline movement. As probably some of you know, as you work a lead, let's just say it's from the pond, it's not one of your SOIs. And that customer is like, okay, I want to work with Raquel. They start communicating with Raquel. That pond lead goes into Raquel's name. Now we see that that is something she is working. That becomes part of her pipeline. So she could eventually have hundreds of people in that pipeline. Yes, maybe not any appointments, maybe not closing yet, but think about that. You've made a difference in that nurture. You've made movement. They are starting to converse with you. They may not have conversed with someone else. If you see my name in there and it's in the pond, guess what? They didn't want to converse with me, but you did something different. You did something to mark in their mind that they wanted to work with you. Then it comes out of the pond. Nobody else is working it. And that's where you're seeing patterns of what behavior you actually did to make that conversation happen. You are seeing that if you have 200 leads that are all assigned to you and you're following up, if you think about it in percentages, real estate agents have about a 3% turn. And when I say that, it's usually what happens in 100 in your pipeline. Let's say you have 100 pond leads in your pipeline. Most likely, at least 3 of those, 3 to 8%, are going to turn into something. So if you think about it that way, you have to have the conversations. You have to show the activity. Because when it comes down to any industry, we grow at a certain rate. And we learn that from past behaviors. So from this industry in real estate, you're looking at a 3 to 8% turn on average. Now, could you have 10? Could you have 15%? Absolutely. If you are really good at those conversations, you're going to have better movement than others. But in the worst case scenario, if you are making those conversations, you should have 3 real closes in 100 of those conversations. So if you think about forward movement, that's what we need to be hitting. And again, sometimes you're going to get lucky. Sometimes that talent is going to win. But the 98% is what drives us, is what makes that work. It's what moves our business forward. Now, this is how we connect all 3 systems. The what, the distribution and compliance of the overall system. Then there's the what, our reality, appointments and closings, and CSU. And then there's the why. These are our behavior patterns. These are calls and conversations, which leads to appointments, which leads to closing, which makes our system healthy. So together they explain what is happening and why. So we're not just throwing things against the wall. We can actually see in our systems how well we are doing as individuals and as a team. And because it's your business, most likely you're going to care about your business first. And that's absolutely what you should be doing. But overall, if the system is working and we're working towards goals and we're making the overall company better, then of course more opportunity is coming our way because a lessee will be known. And you work for a lessee. So that's the great thing behind having a brokerage that's well known. So as we move forward, remember they are all connected. So this is where strategy comes in. We know where our momentum is building. We know when we're slowing down and what behaviors are producing. If we see that we're sending 100 emails and we're having no conversations, those behaviors may not be producing what we want. So what behaviors can we change? Maybe we need to do more text. Some people love text. People are getting away from emails a little bit. And then where do we need our improvement? What gaps are there? What skills do we need? What habits do we put in place? And it's that strategy is one of those things why I'm here. So as we actually look at performance pulse, I know where I can train that week. So as we look at these insights, I know where we need to build more skills. We need to have better habits. We need to make sure we're in compliance with our systems because that's where we can build strategy. And no matter how much we think real estate is different, it's a business. And when it comes down to business, every business looks at data. And that data is what drives us forward. Now, the lever. Once we understand the data, we can act. What do we work on next? If you're afraid of calling, what can we do to make it easier? What can we do that will help you relax and allow you to make those calls and make it feel like you have the confidence? It might be something very simple. Maybe you think that you need to know everything about real estate to make those calls. Otherwise, you're not prepared. But let's focus on one step. Let's say you want to understand down payment assistance. That's where you think that's where it's going to drive your business. Then let's master down payment assistance. And that will make you feel more confident. And then what do we want to master next? So the lever is about learning so we can actually make sure we're doing relevant things and we're working on the right thing at the right time. Remember, you don't have to know everything. You're never going to know everything. There's always going to be something different. But it's how we build on that knowledge that's going to make us collectively stronger. That when we talk to other agents, we can share. We can learn from one another. Now, this is where we want to bring alignment. Like I've talked about Vortex and how much we want to bring that in to bring listings. And I know I've shared this with some of you. Buyers are amazing. You don't want to turn away buyers. Listings are incredible too. And even though it's a buyer's market, they have to buy something. So we need the listings. So a listing costs us about 8 hours of work. A buyer takes about 30 hours on average. So you want to have both. You want to be using your time wisely. So with Vortex is about making those calls to get more listings. Then we want morning mastery. Morning mastery is about insight into the business. It's activity alignment. So we know where we can bring that intelligence. FUB training is always powerful. I say FUB and the MLS are superpowers. Together, you can come into a conversation and you can say exactly what that person wants, and you're not just another real estate agent on the other end of the phone saying, hey, do you want to buy? Then there's fundamentals. These is where we build on behaviors. Script and role play. This allows us to practice objections and conversations that other people are having. And then success score. People have seen this on the calendar. It's 3 hours long. That may seem overwhelming, but where I want you guys to drive is to use those 3 hours as just a point in time. Now, can that be an hour a day? Absolutely. But success score allows a specific time of day where you get structured support. You have access to me 3 hours completely. Any questions or real-time coaching, you have absolute support. But can you do success score in your own time? Absolutely. You don't have to do 3 hours. If you work full time, I totally get it. You have kids and you have family. But I want you to drive the fact that you're not going to be able to go into real estate full time without doing some work. It's not going to magically happen. So success score is about having that live support. But of course, I'm always available, but I may not be available when that hard call comes. I may not be available when you need real-time coaching. So I'm giving you that gap, but a long period of time, 3 days a week, where I'm completely available to you. And you don't have to do an hour. You don't have to do 3 hours. You can do this in 15-minute bursts. And the reason why I say 15 minutes is because a lot of companies do this. A lot of sales teams do this. It allows you to say, okay, if calls frustrate me or they scare me, you can do anything for 15 minutes. Just say, I'm going to work 15 minutes. I could have 15 bad calls. Now you can pause, learn something from those calls, and then do another 15 minutes later in the day. Now, if you do that 4 times a day, that's an hour devoted to your career as a real estate agent. And a lot of people go into those 15 minutes with more energy. So it allows you to be there, and actually there are times where you could walk out with an appointment or some, 4 or 5 great conversations. That all builds up. So this is about developing your investment into your own business. So this is the closed loop. So we have the data, the insight, the training, the behavior that leads to production, and then it goes around again. This loop tightens into a revolution that we keep on measuring. And the more we measure, the more we see, look, I made, 50 more calls last week, and I had 10 more conversations. Out of those 10, I got 2 appointments, and out of those appointments, one of them could become a closing. So it may feel like, oh my God, I have to make 10 conversations turn into that little of appointments. That's really good. Really, if you make 100 calls and you walk out with 3 appointments, that is seriously amazing. So it feels overwhelming, but if you separate that out in 10, 15-minute bursts, all of a sudden it's workable. Closings start with conversations. We can't get around it. This is a business where you have to talk to people. This is not something AI can take over. Yes, can AI help? And we're going to do trainings on that. But people want to talk to people when they're about to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on something that's life-changing. They want to see you. They want to hear your voice. This is stressful. And so they want to have a human conversation. How many times do you hang up when it's a computer calling you? Or when it's a call center that's clearly a call center? They're not going to trust you to work with them, to spend all that money on their next goal in life, their next chapter. So we kind of talked about this. This is the basic reality of our industry. It's conversation rate by contact attempt. We're going to walk away on average 3 to 8%. So for every 100 contacts, that's 3 to 8 real conversations. This is by no means a failure rate, okay? This is way high compared to some industries. If you think of consumers, or you think of something that is made in China, some people are walking away with 1%, and that 1% can drive a business into millions. So 3 to 8%, and that's across all lead types, all channels, all agent skill levels. And some agents are only doing 2 or 3, deals a year, and some are doing 50. This is between all agents. This is what history tells us. And when you understand and accept the math, and you understand how to prospect and the discipline it takes, you won't get discouraged, because the math tells you that yes, there's luck. And yes, there's talent that we can build. But this is about discipline and working forward. So this is what it means in real numbers. 1,000 maximum attempts. Now, that is typical at 3%, right? So that's typical for cold or age leads. Not new leads, we're talking about old leads. So the minimum attempts need to be about 375. So what does that mean? You can actually, when you think about 1,000 attempts, that's a mixture of open houses, emails, texts, and calls. So if you do the trifecta, let's think about this. If you have send an email, send a text, and you call one person, that's 3 attempts. So really, it breaks down that it's not that many attempts. It feels overwhelming, but that will lead to about 30 conversations. These are two-way exchanges. And that is a very healthy pipeline. Now, you could do amazing. Like I said, there are people that just turn it, people that just are out there and doing amazing. And the more you grow, the more amazing you're going to become at doing this. So this is your monthly outreach volume. This is where we want to be. 250 calls, 200 texts, 150 emails. That is a total of 600 total contact attempts, which will generate roughly 18 to 48 conversations. And those are cold leads. Now, warm referrals convert far higher than cold intent leads. Now, the time of the day is a little bit different. This is Vegas, so everybody works differently. So early mornings in a normal state, that's not Vegas, late afternoons can reach more people. But here you have a lot of people working evenings. People are coming home at lunch. So we actually have better times of day. Leads that have been nurtured respond at a higher rate. So those 100 people in Raquel's pipeline that have talked to her and she follows up, they will respond at a higher rate because they've seen Raquel's name, they've seen her follow up meaningfully, and they've seen that she cares. Now, strong openers, there is skill and there's confidence. Some people will move, like I've seen agents, like they have to walk around. That walking around gives them energy, it gives them confidence. So I really want you to think about when you're making these attempts, you're making these calls, what makes you feel the most confident? Is it how you're sitting? Is it smiling before you make the call? These are all things that you learn about yourself, and it makes you give even stronger openers. And so it dramatically improves your conversations. But when it comes down to it, it's about volume and persistence. There's no shortcut. And this is why there's a lot of people out there that have analysts. Because when it comes down to it, everything breaks down to the math and the discipline. So I believe in the trifecta. I call, I text, and I do an email to one lead. Unless, of course, they've opted out. If they say don't call, they don't text, or don't email, then of course I don't. But it's not about doing more work. It's about being smart with how people communicate. Some people only want calls. A lot of people nowadays just want to text. But when you're hitting who responds, who communicates more effectively, you are going to hit more. You're going to have more conversations. So it's predictable. And their preferences are really all over the place. You know, sometimes I leave an email in my inbox because it's interesting. Sometimes I just leave a text because it seems like it's spam. And sometimes I don't answer a call because it says Alessi Realty. But for me, an email is interesting. It might sit there in my inbox. Now, sometimes people are like, every text looks amazing. But if you make the communication nice and not like a campaign, they may find it interesting and leave it in their text. Or you may have a really strong opener when you call, and that's when they're going to pause and say, okay, this person's interested in me. Now, I want you to do with what feels comfortable, but the more you branch out, the more you're actually going to reach. And the more confident you're going to be. If you're confident on a call, can you imagine how much you can branch out in your business? This is about outreach, and multi-channel outreach can be very effective because one, you have one script. You're talking to one person that you already know based on notes or based on an expired listing. You know where they're coming from. Their listing expired. So you're having really one conversation that's hitting 3 channels. Call, fastest method to connection. Text, high response, low friction. Email, context, credibility, and detail. So we want to be professional in our emails, obviously. But some people are like, oh, I get so many emails. But sometimes calls are the hardest. But it's the fastest path to connection. People hear your voice, they hear where you're coming from, and they may hang up. But that voice could be the voice of someone that feels like, okay, I trust you. And then again, text could be very high response. Normally it is, and you have less friction. Someone may text you back and say, please, you know, this text is too long, or, you know, I just too much communication, but it's a little bit easier sometimes. But if you're gonna do one thing, make the call. So this is the full picture. Conversations lead to appointments, leads to deals, deals leads to closing. It's as simple as that. The agents winning this market are the ones with the most leads. They're the ones that have the most conversations. Now, this is why open houses are really nice, because you're having conversations as people are coming in. They're seeing you as professionals, seeing if you know the house. This is where it's really nice. And you probably feel like it's somewhat less friction because they came to the house. But do what you were built to do and then make yourself stronger. So now we're going to look at the systems. Welcome to Banner. So this is very high level. So the first is database health score. So right now we have about 6,000 in our database that are being somewhat actively worked. We are 19% compliant. So that means we're compliant with 1,200 of our contacts. We're at risk with 4,500, and we're neglecting 785. Now, the next one is actually dipped. Normally, we're at about 93 compliant, but it's Monday, and there might have been some slip over the weekend. But these are teams. This is a team with leads in their bucket. It's assigned to them. So in this team, we have 718 leads with 554 compliant. At risk are the ones that we're not following up with, that we've had communication with, and we're just not following up. And then we have 55 that are neglected. And then we go down to agent health scores. So we have about 1,000 that are not really active agents that are, so this is a little bit lower. So total records about 5,000. We're about 620 compliant. And then our current clients are SOI. Now look how dangerous. I mean, I'm sorry, the next one down is SOI. Current clients are ones that we've actually taken on recently. So recent clients, we have 230 that have been added. 88 we're compliant with. At risk are 125 and 17 are neglected. So these are clients in the last week that we brought in, and we're 38% compliant. That's extremely low. It's why it's red. So if we're not helping our current clients, then obviously we're going to lose them. Now, sphere and past clients. We have 4,948 sphere clients, and we've only compliant with 247. We're neglecting our sphere. Again, 30,000 feet. All right. But we would like to be about 80% compliant. So, we have a lot that we need to do, but this tells us a lot. So where we want to be the next performance pulse is that we want these percentages to be going up. Are we expecting us to, to jump to 80%? Absolutely not. But if we have clients in our sphere and we have past clients that we could just be following up with, that raises our compliant rate. So if you're following up with a past client saying, thank you for your business, is there anything else going on in your real estate? Is there any friends or family? Or just a touch point, those aren't neglected. So you could be sending out a drip campaign to your past clients saying, I hope you're great. Here's my newsletter. And that's going to raise our compliance rate. So it doesn't take much to get those percentages up. And that's what we need to drive for. But again, this is our database overall. And we just instituted better. So yeah, we do have a long way to go, but we have a lot of records in there. And they're not exactly cold leads. Some of these are very warm. I mean, think about current clients. Those are warm leads. 230 records. We can do so much better, and we could be getting business like crazy if we're just making sure our clients are taken care of. So this is fun. I want to go to CSU real quick. So CSU, everybody's kind of seeing this. This is the overall as our business. Okay, and that is just in the last month. So when you see the dark, like navy blue, that's what we're hitting. So for conversations, we want about 1,000. And we're over by 4.9%. So we've actually had 1,024 in February. So we hit our marks. But as you can see, we came low in almost all the buyer area, but we're doing amazing in the seller area. Now these goals are great goals. We're not always going to meet them, but we want to understand that these are doable. These are based on history that we can do these. These are averages. And I believe that throughout the whole agency, can we do 1,000 conversations? Absolutely. There should be nothing holding us back. We just now need to be that consistent. Now, this is a lessee overall. Now, in CSU, you're going to have access to yourself. So you're not going to see a lot of these things. You're going to see the group overall, and then you're going to see individual agents, or just basically yourself. So if I go to the value team, This is where we were in February. Now, many of these are new agents. So we're not going to expect that we're going to be closing a ton. Now, where we want to be, we still have hit our closing amount in February. We wanted 1. What we want for 2026 is 3, because these are newer agents. But we still did 1 in February, which is amazing. But we also want to see some of these movement too, because guess what? This movement is going to get to even more of this movement. Now let's look at another team, if I can just actually hit the right button. So let's look at the view team. Now, this is one of our largest teams and our most experienced teams. In February, we hit our goals. Obviously, we did way more. We did 121 conversations, but look how this is you. Look how much we've done so far. We're meeting, if not exceeding, those goals. Now, let's go to velocity. Now, look how amazing this is looking for February. And really, we are way ahead of our marks that we're going to hit way more. Now, these teams may not look much to you, but overall, this is where we're at. And I know that with more of these conversations, we're going to be even higher in these goals. Now let's go to reports real quick. And please, I beg you to keep a little bit of patience, because we all know that Sisu can be extremely slow. While we're looking at this, here's activity for all of our agents down here. So, follow-up boss emails. For February, we had 14,000. So, if it just, this is why I get frustrated with that. It's not going to work. But anyway, so this is where Sisu is telling us the overall numbers. Okay. So this tells us where we're on pace. And so right now, we're focused on 1 agent. So this tells us here where we are to date, where you want to be in your personal pacer. This is what you're doing right now, and this is what your personal goal is. So if your goal is 150, so your personal goal is 150, and actual to date is 27. So we're not going to hit personal goals unless we're going to get where we're pacing what we set for our goals. So this comes down to actuals of where we set our goals. Now, do we not want to lower our goals? We want to see where we're at so we can move forward and we can make our goals. So that is Sisu. Now I'm going to show overall. So in FUB, this tells us a huge amount. So this one's set for appointment set. This is for the last 30 days. And here it tells us where we're up and down. So appointment set, these are new leads, we're up. That's amazing. This all shows up. Calls, we're down 2,344 calls. But we're up on emails. So if we're not making enough calls, we're sending a ton of emails, great. But notice that we're up on emails, we're down on calls and texts. So we're missing two key components of where we're not hitting some targets and where we could actually improve and then hit more conversations. Now, notes, okay, we're up 67% in notes. Now, notes are great. They tell us a lot. They tell us what happened in the past. It tells you what the client is looking for. And if you actually read the notes, you're going to go into that call very effectively. We're up 67%. So that's great. I love notes. You guys have seen my notes all over the place. But the more we're documenting, the more we're actually allowing not only yourselves, but the customers to feel that we know them. Appointments set, we're actually up 122. So we're 4.3% up. Great. So that's amazing. Appointments overall, we're up 31.6%. Now, if you think about it, if we were making pace in calls and texts, can you imagine where this would be? And then I forgot tasks. So I know a lot of the newer agents and the agents that have been here just for a little bit. I am so proud of you guys for setting tasks and completing them. That is so much follow-up there. I really think that that is amazing. So that is telling us we're great at follow-up, right? That's up 95%. That actually is telling me that you guys are really good about setting tasks. And you're really good about sending those emails. But where we could be better is making those calls and sending those texts. So this is how powerful it is to actually look at the data and see overall where we could be doing better. If we're making more calls, we're gonna have more appointments. Think about this was higher. So let's just say we had 3,000 calls. Can you imagine where our appointments would be? So, and as you can see here, this is over the last 30 days. And here, if I compare it to last month. So the light gray here is where we were last month. So you can kind of see where we are dipping and where we're going up. So yeah, it looks like we're doing much better on some of these days versus where we were, and sometimes we were doing worse. Now, this is pretty normal for real estate. We're going to have good days and bad days, but this tells us a lot about, we want these to be consistently going up. We should have the line way up here. But we also are having spikes here, like the 1/3 of our month here, we're spiking based on the period afterwards. So all of this is very powerful and very motivational if you think about it. Now, I know a lot of this is overwhelming and the calls can be very overwhelming, and we have a lot of new agents. And if you're struggling there, please get with me and we can work on role playing, we can work on scripts, we can work on things that will actually make the needle move, not only for us overall as a company, but also for yourself. And I want to use this data. We're actually in our one-on-ones, we're going to drive down to the individuals during those one-on-ones to see where we could be doing better. And again, if you're actually focusing on small bouts of time, if you're committing to yourself, yes, I can do 15 minutes. And you do that 4 times a day, that's an hour. And that hour can add up. You could be actually having 4 conversations, each one of those 15-minute sprints, and think about how much in that small amount of time that you are gaining, 1, that experience, and 2, how much that can drive your business. Now, if you talk to most real estate agents that are, let's just say they are doing the 50 appointments a year. And you think it gets, a huge amount easier, and it does. You have referrals and that type of thing. But I met an agent when I got sworn in, and he still says he spends a third of his day, a third, prospecting. Now, the other 2/3, he works with clients and he has his referrals and he keeps track and he keeps his database clean. But a third of your day, it still should be spent, even when you're the biggest agent in the world, prospecting for new. Because guess what? There's new buyers, there's new sellers, and if you want to continue to grow, you can't stop progressing. And that's true, again, for any industry, for any business. If you become stagnant, so will your numbers. Apple doesn't just sit there and say, great, the iPhone, it's huge, let's just stop creating products. They're constantly looking for better ways and constantly bringing products to the market. Otherwise, people are going to stop buying them. And I know I'm using Apple as a comparison, and I'm not expecting us anywhere to get near Apple, but that's true for any business. And you get to be the expert. You get to bring what you have, because we're all different. And that's what's amazing, is that we bring something different. We're going to attract different clients. So work where sometimes, and I say this all the time, you're going to grow when you're uncomfortable. When you step outside and you're uncomfortable, you're going to make yourself better. And of course, that's hard. We want to be comfortable. But if you do it for short amounts of time and you get to go back to your comfort, you're going to realize, okay, today I grew so much because those 30 calls, those whatever you made, you're going to take a deep breath and realize it's not that bad. It's not as hard as you thought. And the worst that's going to happen is they may curse at you and say, don't call. They can't slam the phone down because we're all on cell phones. And, yeah, that hurts our ego and that hurts, to have someone say no to us. But in the long run, think about how much worse it has to be. Think about the person at the Verizon store that has that angry customer because their phone doesn't work. And really, it's because they don't like phones. And you're so frustrated because they can't even figure out how to turn on their phone. You are nowhere near having to deal with that. I mean, I walked into one of these like Kinkos, and I just heard the story, but like I walked in and had someone bring their computer into Kinkos asking to download Windows. Okay, you're not facing that. You're not facing that disconnect. And in the pond, one of these people at one point raised their hand and said, I want to buy or sell my home. So at some point, either they bought or they sold, and it's been a while, or they didn't do it. Someone else missed the opportunity, and now you have the chance. So don't think of them as cold leads. Think of them as warm leads that may have been forgotten, and now you get the chance. Or they may have a friend or a son, that's looking. I mean, look at Raquel. She has a mother that wants to buy. Now it really was the son. So you just never know who you're going to touch. So like I said, we're going to dive into this more about individuals when we do our one-on-ones, but I wanted to show you the bigger picture. And this is what Performance Pulse is all about. And we're going to dive into more individuals and really be able to celebrate wins in future Performance Pulses. And it won't be so much about what Performance Pulse is, it will be what are we doing right. So please come and please listen to recordings if you can't come. But I want you to know that these habits are really going to build your business. Is there any questions? Kind of what we're trying to do here. And if you want your individual numbers, please reach out. I'll be happy to send them to you. Very, very happy to send them to you. Yes, Cassie.
I just want to say thank you for the call, for the meeting. A lot of good information.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to having you guys join Success Floor Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Let's hit that 15 minutes, even if it's just one. If you actually hit an appointment during Success Floor this week, we have a spinning wheel. I'm not sure most people have seen it, but it has like gift cards and cash and stuff like that. If you make an appointment during those hours, you get 2 spins. By the way, nobody loses. Every spin gets something. Okay? And it could be Amazon, it could be cash, it could be a gas card, but you get 2 spins every appointment you make during those 3 hours. Now, if you make an appointment outside those 3 hours, you still get a spin. Okay, so you could be taking home a lot of money by just doing Success Floor and building your business. This is not about me talking, guys. This is about me sitting. Someone gets mad at you, I will listen to you vent for 15, 20 minutes. You can bitch at everybody on the call. You can say that person sucked. And then even if you make one appointment, you could be walking away with $5. Okay? But if you make an appointment at 5 o'clock tomorrow, no problem. You'll get a spin and you can still be walking away. So, and those appointments, right, guys, lead to deals. Okay?
Yep.
Every single time. And every appointment, after you have an appointment, that breaks down. So if you have 5 appointments, those are typically become 2 deals. So you may think 1,000 calls, right? Or 1,000 touch points. But if you think about the appointment, as soon as they make that appointment, the chances are 50% of that becomes deals. So, and if you do the trifecta, right, like we talked about, call, email, text, that's 3. Okay, so that breaks down to really 300 touch points or 333 touch points to make those appointments. Make those appointments, right? And one deal, one commission check pays for that time. That's all you have to do is one commission check will pay for more than a month that you're spending. That's how powerful real estate is that commission check, just one, will pay for all the time. So you spend 15 minutes, right? That's all the time you devote, and you get one paycheck. That's because you only spent 15 minutes. You spend 5 hours, more of a paycheck, more time you spend, so you're creating your own paycheck. And I've broken it down just to the math. Okay, and those, like the people that are selling something to Walmart, you're talking about 1% they're taking home.
Yeah.
Because they're buying it from China, they're importing it. Those imports are about 33%. That's what tax is on an import, guys. And it's even higher for food. So if you think about how much percentages like grocery stores are coming out with, yes, the expensive, the organic makes you more. But the vast majority of people are buying a head of iceberg. And that grocery store is making about 30 cents. Maybe. So you have way better odds. And think about the waste. You're not wasting any time, guys. Like every minute goes towards production. So extremely powerful. The more time you invest, bigger paychecks. So Success Floor, tomorrow, spread the word. I will listen to anything you have to say, and even swear words are okay. I have a sailor mouth, and it will not hurt my feelings. And you can hate me too during those 3 hours. I have no problem with hate. As long as you guys are bringing home deals, I will listen to whatever you want me to listen to. I'll even listen to gangster rap, and I am not saying. Okay, headbanging, I'm just not. Okay, I get migraines. It's just not fun for me. But I will listen. For every deal, I'll listen to at least 15 minutes of whatever music you want to bring. All right, well, I care about all you guys. Let's make this business work. And feel free to reach out if you need anything.
Thank you, Trina.
All right. Go
Bye.
make 15 minutes happen, okay, guys?
On it. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys.
You too.
Bye.